Welcome into Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live. Now here's your host, Kevin Gray.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live on the Sports Radio America Network, presented by Media MPC. Go to www.mediampc.com and download the app on your iOS and Android device and get your mobile press conference on with Media MPC. You can download and subscribe to our free podcast available on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you get your podcast for free. Just search the word Clutch Talk Sports Radio. You can visit ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com. That's ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com for everything for the CT Sports Radio live show. We are live on YouTube. Go to YouTube.com/Clutch Talk Sports Radio. You can see our show currently streaming live on YouTube. Thank you to all those joining us live this afternoon on Clutch Talk Sports Radio on Sports Radio America Network, TuneIn Radio, and the TuneIn app. I'm producer Memphis. Thanks a lot for riding with me today on the CT Sports Radio live show on the Sports Radio America Network. Memphis, good afternoon to you, sir. How are you today?
What's going on, my man? A little tired. Just rolled in from Nashville, but you know, trying to get it done.
Okay. A little traveling this weekend. Understand that. So we're glad to have you along for the ride today on another brand new episode of Clutch Talk Sports Radio live on the Sports Radio America Network. Again, you can follow us all over social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at CT Sports Radio. Speaking of Instagram, I woke up this morning and found out Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson got married over the weekend. So congratulations to my favorite pro wrestler, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, married his longtime girlfriend of 12 years. I don't know if my wife would have waited for me for 12 years to get married, but you know, I don't have The Rock's money either. So you know that there's that. So yeah, a really good weekend of action all across the entire sporting landscape. UFC 241 in the books. We have a new UFC heavyweight champion of the world in Stipe Miocic after defeating Daniel Cormier in the fourth round of their heavyweight championship fight this weekend. So we got ourselves a new UFC heavyweight champion of the world. Little League World Series action taking place. But of course, everybody's got their eyes on the NFL. NFL preseason week number 2 action almost in the books. We got one more game tonight. The San Francisco 49ers taking on the Denver Broncos in a little preseason Monday night football. But over the weekend, there were some games and some action. We're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys here in a little bit. Your man Zeke not feeling his owner, Jerry Jones, right now at the moment. But at the same time, a lot of stuff taking place across the National Football League. Several games that took place over the weekend. And look, we are now officially, as of yesterday, 3 weeks away from the first set of Sunday games in the NFL. Hard to believe now that we're less than 3 weeks away from opening night on September the 5th on Thursday Night Football. And then, of course, the regular season opening up a few days later with respect to the NFL. And as we look at some of the scores from this past weekend, we've got some storylines to talk about, including Daniel Jones and this Eli Manning thing. Now, look, I said that there wasn't any kind of QB controversy with respect to Eli Manning and Daniel Jones. I still believe that, but your man John Mara, the owner of the New York Football Giants, was like, look, I can't see any scenario. I see an ideal scenario. The ideal scenario would be if Daniel Jones didn't see the field this year. Now, that's interesting because a lot of folks not feeling that necessarily, especially if you happen to be a New York Giant fan like my man Kel Danzer. You're not trying to necessarily hear that because the way that Eli Manning has played over the last few years, that's probably not what you want to hear if you're a New York Giant fan. Now, look, the Giants played the Bears over the weekend, okay? Both Eli Manning and Daniel Jones looked good, but the Chicago Bears really didn't play anybody of significance in that football game. So Eli Manning had a touchdown drive. Daniel Jones looked pretty good himself. They played against a bunch of second-string, third-string guys all throughout the entirety of that football game. So it's really been hard to get a gauge on how good Daniel Jones has really been. He's looked really good against the 2s and the 3s, obviously. Eli Manning looking good mainly against the 2s of most teams that they played so far. So the question is, if you're a New York Giant fan and you're looking at this on the outside looking in, no Odell Beckham Jr. anymore, obviously, so that quote-unquote distraction is gone. But the question is, how short of a leash do you give Eli Manning going into this year? Because if I'm the New York Giants, look, you don't want to waste another year of Saquon Barkley, because Saquon Barkley is quickly turning into the Barry Sanders of this generation, playing at an extremely high level, one of the best running backs in football, but on a really, really bad football team. Because the Giants are not going to be very good this year. I don't care what they say as far as what they have on the offensive end. They've been ravaged at the wide receiver position. Odell Beckham is gone. The questions on the offensive line if they can remain consistent. And then you have this inner Eli Manning, Daniel Jones thing at work here, and who should be getting the snaps going forward for the New York Football Giants. Now, I don't know necessarily how you want to move this forward, because on the one hand, Eli Manning hasn't done necessarily enough to lose the job, and Daniel Jones is playing well against guys that aren't going to be on the field anyway. So if I'm the New York Giants and I'm trying to figure out, if I'm Pat Shurmur, the head coach of this football team, what do I do? Do I start Eli Manning and continue to have us lose a bunch of football games, or do I get the future started now? Because when you use a first-round pick, a top 10 pick on a quarterback in his rookie season, you're most likely going to see him on the field some. Now, that depends on how quickly things spiral out of control for the New York Football Giants, because I think they're going to spiral out of control fairly quickly for the New York Football Giants. So for John Mara, the owner of the New York Giants, to say, you know what, I don't know if Daniel Jones in an ideal situation would see the field this year. Wait a minute. That's not what time it is, because Eli Manning, look, it's time to turn the page. Look, folks in New York have been wanting to turn the page on Eli Manning for the last 3 seasons. That's how bad it's been out in New York with Eli Manning and the New York Football Giants. They've been wanting to turn the page on Eli Manning for years now, and they finally think they might have an opportunity to turn the page with respect to Eli Manning and Daniel Jones. So that's a really tricky situation, because, again, Daniel Jones has played well against guys that won't see the field that much. Eli Manning's played well against guys that won't see the field that much either. So it's been really hard to get a gauge on both of these guys. But nonetheless, they did get a win against the Chicago Bears over the weekend, 32-13. Tampa Bay Buccaneers got a 16-14 win. Not much really to talk about there. The New England Patriots got some terrific news, okay? So after the show on Friday, I think it was after the show on Friday, it had to be after the show because we didn't talk about it on Friday, Josh Gordon is reinstated conditionally back into the NFL for the New England Patriots. That is huge. Not only that, Julian Edelman and Demaryius Thomas were both on the field for practice today. So Julian Edelman, Demaryius Thomas, and Josh Gordon all back for the New England Patriots. Now, look, if this was 3, 4, 5 years ago, we'd be talking about one of the most talented wide receiver groups in the NFL when you talk about Demaryius Thomas, Julian Edelman, and Josh Gordon all on the field at the same time. Not necessarily that today, because Demaryius Thomas has been dealing with a lot of injuries. Julian Edelman, yes, has been still productive, but dealing with more injuries as of late, as over the last couple of years. But this whole Josh Gordon thing is to me, is a game changer. Look, when Josh Gordon is on the field, he is Tom Brady's best threat down the field and his most reliable pass catcher. Josh Gordon averaged nearly 16 yards per catch last year when he was on the field playing for the New England Patriots. That was the best of any receiver on the football team for the New England Patriots by far. He is the most consistent deep threat down the field for the New England Patriots, was Josh Gordon when he was on the field last year with Tom Brady. Adding Josh Gordon to this offense where they don't really use the running game as it is, and now giving a 42-year-old Tom Brady probably his best weapon back, especially now with Rob Gronkowski fully off into retirement now. This is a huge pickup, and not even one that they had to spend any money on because he was already on the team. He was just suspended. So now to get him back into the fold for the New England Patriots, to me, is a huge, huge game changer. Look, they won a Super Bowl without Josh Gordon last year. Just imagine how much better this offense is going to be with Josh Gordon on the football field on a full-time basis if he can remain so in all of 2019. Then you get back a healthy Julian Edelman, and the wild card being Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius Thomas at the height of his game was considered one of the best receivers in the National Football League when him and Peyton Manning were doing their thing out in Denver. So if you can get even some of what Demaryius Thomas was 4 or 5 years ago, or even in the last few years when he's healthy on the football field, and you have a 1-2 punch with Josh Gordon and Demaryius Thomas, and then of course Julian Edelman, who's been around doing his thing for years now, This offense for the New England Patriots is a lot more scary now with those three on the field, especially if they're all healthy and playing at a high level with Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady, look, you can say what you want. You can say about the plan of the New England Patriots, how they haven't really done a good job of trying to succeed Tom Brady because we don't know how long Tom Brady's going to continue to play. But at the same time, he continues to play at a high level. He just won another Super Bowl, his 6th Super Bowl championship. And now you give him a legitimate weapon and Josh Gordon back, not to mention Sonny Michel back there still running the football for them. Look, can't stand the Patriots. A lot of us can't stand the Patriots, but at the same time, they continue to put themselves in position to get the right players in the right place in the system for Tom Brady and the New England Patriots to continue to move forward. And now they get Josh Gordon back, one of the most talented. I've said it on this show many a time. Josh Gordon, when he's on the football field and healthy and right, there may be no more talented wide receiver in the NFL than Josh Gordon. That is how good Josh Gordon is. People forget. In his rookie season, he led the NFL in receiving yards in just 14 games. That is how insanely, for the Cleveland Browns, when had nobody throwing him the football, and he still led the NFL in receiving in 14 games. That is how good and how talented Josh Gordon is. I know you say, Kevin, well, there's Julio Jones, there's a bunch of other guys. If Josh Gordon is on the football field and Josh Gordon is right, and you've got Tom Brady throwing him the football, there may be no more talented wide receiver. I'm not saying he's the best, but there may be no more talented wide receiver in the NFL than one Josh Gordon. And now he's back for the New England Patriots. That's a scary thought for the AFC East and the rest of the AFC as they move forward from there. We're going to talk about the Cowboys and the Rams a little bit later on because your man Zeke isn't feeling Jerry Jones right now. Tony Pollard played really well for the Dallas Cowboys. It's got a lot of folks talking down here in Dallas about what's going on with Tony Pollard. The Minnesota Vikings got a 25-19 win last night on Sunday night, and then the Saints got a 19-17 win over the Los Angeles Chargers. Teddy Bridgewater looking okay. Look, one thing that we've come to learn now as training camps that have now broken, teams are back in their home cities as they finish out the rest of the preseason with the third game coming up. The most important game that's coming now is this third preseason game for all these teams. This is what we like to call the dress rehearsal in the business. So you're going to see these players into the second and third quarters of most of these games in that preseason, in that third preseason game. So you're really going to find out what a lot of these teams are going to have. And I'm looking forward to seeing, number one, how the Cleveland Browns continue to move forward. We're going to talk with Jeff Risdon here in about 5-10 minutes here about what the Cleveland Browns are doing. Your man Odell Beckham Jr. catching the ball in between his legs in the end zone in practice today, doing Odell Beckham Jr. type things. But I'm interested to see what some of these teams, especially teams that have a lot of expectations, like the Cleveland Browns and others, are going to look like in this third preseason game. Most of the first couple of preseason games, obviously stuff is pretty vanilla, pretty basic. You're just trying to get folks and have folks stay healthy for those first couple of preseason games, and then come preseason game number 3. That is when we start seeing what these teams really have. And for teams like Cleveland, for teams like Tampa Bay, who we've talked about a lot on this show because I think they've got a lot of good things going for them with Jameis Winston, with Bruce Arians being the QB whisperer and what they've got going on down there. Really important season for them. Obviously, for a team like the Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton, apparently training camp storyline for him. The deep ball is back for your man Cam Newton, which is really important in a tough NFC South, which I've said on the show before. I think the NFC South is going to be the toughest division in football this season between the Panthers, the Saints, the Falcons, and obviously with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers thinking that they're going to improve with Bruce Arians and that entire coaching staff moving forward. To me, that is the toughest division in football this year. So the Saints got their hands full. The Falcons got their hands full. The Panthers obviously have their hands full. Christian McCaffrey, for a lot of folks, fantasy draft-wise, is one of the best running backs, if not the top-rated running back in the NFL when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield, running the ball in between the tackles, a multi-purpose back that's going to do a lot of good things for Cam Newton and that offense for Carolina. So the NFC South is going to be really, really good this year. Obviously, the AFC East, Sam Darnold, training camp storyline for the New York Jets. Sam Darnold looks really good. Adam Gase saying this week, though, that Le'Veon Bell is not going to play in this preseason, which I'm not surprised by. Why put Le'Veon Bell out on the football field? For who? For what? He's ready. He can go on game number 1 and just let him run the rock from there. So Sam Darnold, though, looking good. You could look. I don't know if you watched the game this past weekend, but for Sam Darnold, he looks like he's getting better. He's making his deep progressions look much better. He's obviously putting himself in position where he's seeing things better down the field and throwing the ball with much more confidence now going into this second year with the New York Football Jets. So there's a lot of different things for a lot of different teams going on all over the place. Obviously, you're going to be hearing a lot on this show, obviously, about the Dallas Cowboys and what they've got going on, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the show. Dak Prescott, normally good, not so good against the Los Angeles Rams, and other teams looking to put themselves in position going forward. So, look, preseason, week number 3 of the NFL coming up this week. Games to be watching, of course, down here in Dallas, the Battle of Texas, the Houston Texans taking on the Dallas Cowboys. That's going to be a huge game to watch. Obviously, Deshaun Watson. Houston's got a real interesting situation with Jadeveon Clowney, trying to figure out how they're going to eventually get him a long-term deal if he wants to have a long-term deal staying with the Houston Texans going forward. But the big game, obviously, down here in Dallas Cowboys taking on the Houston Texans to figure out, obviously, the Battle of Texas and all that good stuff. But more importantly, it's preseason week number 3. This is the most important. I don't really care about the first couple weeks of preseason. No big deal. A lot of folks want to read into seeing who the second team and the third team. No big deal there. This is the week. If you're going to pay attention to football this week, this is the week that you're going to do it, because you're going to see all your teams number ones on both offense and defense well into the third quarter of these games to give you a really good idea of how these guys are looking as they get ready for the first week of the regular season of this 100th season of football in the National Football League. All the distractions, everything that's taking place off the field, Jay-Z and the NFL, concussions. Look, these penalties have been really stupid too. I don't know what's going on with the NFL as far as their referees are concerned. The referees have had a really bad preseason so far. There's been some really questionable calls on some crackback blocks and some blindside blocks that are like he's blocking the guy looking at him directly in the face. There's a lot of stuff going on right now that the NFL is getting figured out. But most importantly, preseason week number 3 action is here. This is the week, if you're going to pay attention to football, this is the week that you want to do it. We'll have more on that later on this week, obviously, as these games continue to unfold. This is the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show on the Sports Radio American Network, TuneIn Radio, and the TuneIn app. Coming up next, Jeff Risdon of the Browns Wire for USA Today is going to join us to tell us how Odell Beckham is doing in Browns training camp. Next, CT Sports Radio live on the Sports Radio American Network, live on YouTube. We'll be right back.
You can learn to DIY just about anything.
Today I'm going to teach you how to defend yourself in a court of law. It's important to wear a fancy suit. That way, if they ask for evidence, you can point to it and say, Exhibit A.
After all, some things are better left to the pros, like buying a home, because without an expert to guide you, you could be headed for trouble.
If you're backed into a corner, throw out a few objections. Works every time.
So DIY yourself a favor and get Realtor. Head to Realtor.com/GetRealtor today. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
Stop global swarming! Global swarming is real, and the mosquitoes are back. Call Mosquito Nix immediately, helping stop global swarming and protecting outdoor lifestyles for over 15 years. Now offering 15% off all custom mosquito systems that eliminates flying, biting, pesky mosquitoes and insects. 15% off all custom mosquito systems.
Mosquito Nix, the best in the business.
Find them at mosquitonix.com.
Offer for a limited time only.
How to be cool. Brought to you by Air King Fans. Tip 91. Put on a leather jacket. Now take off the leather jacket, because those things are hot. Sit by an Air King fan until coolness is achieved. Now that's cool.
Clear the road. We have spies inbound.
Are you a problem solver? The Air National Guard never shies from tomorrow's problems. We run to them. Ready for world-class military training and global missions? Help us design the blueprint for a better future. Serve close to home and build the life you want with the Air National Guard. Visit us at goang.com or call us at 1-800-TOGO-ANG.
You're listening to Sports Radio America.
back in the Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live on the Sports Radio America Network, presented by Media NBC. Go to www.medianbc.com and download the app on your iOS and Android device. Get your mobile press conference on with Media NBC. If you don't catch anything live with us, you can download and subscribe on YouTube. And you can watch the show streaming live. You can also download and subscribe to our free podcast available on Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you get your podcast for free, just search the words Clutch Talk Sports Radio. We are live streaming on YouTube and also on Sports Radio America Network, TuneIn Radio, and the TuneIn app. Thank you to everyone joining us live today on our show, coming off the weekend of tremendous action across the entire sporting landscape. And thank you to everyone joining us live today on our show. My producer, Memphis Prince Marco, arriving in today on the CT Sports Radio Live. So don't forget to visit ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com. Everything for the CT Sports Radio Live. So we're talking preseason weekend action across the NFL this past weekend, week number 2, going into week number 3, most dress rehearsals for teams across the National Football League. And we're going to talk a little Cleveland Brown football amongst the NFL in week number 3. He is the managing editor for the Browns Wire for all things USA Today. Friend of the show, his name is Jeff Risdon. Jeff, good afternoon to you, sir.
Oh, my pleasure to be back with you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for taking the time with us today on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. Jeff, let's jump right in. Obviously, this is a Cleveland Brown football team that's got a lot of expectations after having a big offseason, including, of course, bringing Odell Beckham Jr. over from the New York Football Giants. For you, just looking at overall expectations, what is the feeling around this football team and around fans and folks who you talk to about their chances this year with respect to the AFC North?
You know, as far as the AFC North goes, everybody in Cleveland, and that includes the Browns players and coaches and management, will be very disappointed and frustrated if this team doesn't win the division. And a lot of that is based on what you see from the Browns. Like you said, they brought in Odell Beckham. They've got I cannot say enough good things about Myles Garrett as a defensive MVP candidate. They added Olivier Vernon and Sheldon Richardson, 2 guys who are very accomplished veteran football players at positions where the Browns needed some help, quite frankly. And I think they'll make Garrett better. But it also has to do with the Ravens have some questions. The Steelers have some interesting questions going on with them. And the Bengals, well, they're the Bengals. So I think there's an expectation that this Browns team has the most talent in the AFC North, and dare I say the entire AFC. It's just a question of, okay, it's Cleveland. They haven't won a division titles in 30 years. It's been a very long time since they had expectations this high. It goes back to the era of Bernie Kosar in the Marty Schottenheimer years, where they made consecutive AFC championship games. This team on paper can beat anyone. It's a question of translating it from paper to on the field, and that's where the rub lies. I don't think you'll find anybody who doesn't think that this team's going to be good. It's a question of how good.
And we're talking with Jeff Risdon, managing editor of the Browns Wire, today on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live show, talking all things Cleveland Brown football. Sticking with the changes that this football team has made, Freddie Kitchens, the new head coach for this football team, going through his first training camp paces with this Cleveland Brown team. What do you make of his progress so far as the head man for this team, and what expectations are on him now going into a much-anticipated season, given all the talent that you spoke of that's on this roster now?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Freddie as a rookie head coach. He's never been a head coach anywhere before. He'd never called plays until halfway through last season when they made the coaching changes that were obviously necessary. So there's some heat on Freddie a little bit already. I think he's handled it very well. I've stood next to him in press conferences. I've asked him questions. I've gotten to know him just a little bit, and I'm impressed with how he has a grasp for what his role with the team is. A lot of times rookie head coaches come in and they want to be everything to everybody. I think Freddie has done a really good job of delegating the defense to Steve Wilks, who was a rookie coach last year with the Arizona Cardinals, and it didn't go well. And I think Wilks has been an invaluable advisor for Freddie in that case. I think he's a little frustrated. I think he's showing that he's not necessarily the good old boy, the persona that he sort of gave in the offseason. He's from Alabama. He was a quarterback at the University of Alabama. Got a nice, easy drawl to him, Southern gentleman type, and some people interpret that the wrong way. We've seen in practice that he is intense. He will get on guys. He will drive after people. If you ask him a stupid question at a press conference, he's going to give you a snarly answer, which I think a lot of people actually appreciate and caught by surprise. So I'm a Freddie fan. I'm glad that they hired him. I thought he was the right choice. He's going to make some rookie mistakes. That's inevitable. But I think there's enough around him that I think he'll be able to manage it just fine. As long as he remembers who he is. And he seems to have a pretty good idea of the Freddie Kitchens brand, and that's why he has the job, because he was not expected to get that job when it first came open, and various other candidates came and went. Bruce Arians was strongly considered, and they kept coming back to Freddie, and they realized that if they let him go, he was going to be a head coach somewhere else. So he's got a little bit of there's some growth to come, but I think he's definitely the right man for the job. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he handles, in-game situations, how he handles, a Monday after a Sunday where the team doesn't play well, because that happens. That's the NFL, and I think that's the big question right now is how does he respond to this team when they face some adversity?
And again, we're talking with Jeff Risdon, managing editor of the Browns Wire, today on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show, talking all things Cleveland Brown football. Freddie Kitchens, of course, heading into his first full season as head coach for this football team. The quarterback that he has and it continues to develop a relationship with, obviously, of course, is Baker Mayfield, the leader of this football team. For you, what does Baker Mayfield have to show you now in year number 2 that will give you confidence that he truly is the man going forward for this team long term to give them the best opportunity to win week in and week out?
I think he much like Freddie needs to stay true to being Freddie, Baker needs to stay being Baker. He's the guy. Remember when he was in college at Oklahoma, he planted the flag in the horseshoe at Ohio State. There was a tremendous cross-pollination between Ohio State fans and Cleveland Brown fans. There's a lot of people that were worried about that. Now that he's wearing the brown and orange, everybody loves that. They want that brash. They want the swagger. They want the guy who wanted the job. He wanted the challenge of taking over an 0-16 team and leading them to the top. He embraced that. He's really jumped. He's dove into being a Clevelander and being part of the city and the culture, and I think he gets it. And as long as he remembers that and keeps people rally around him, they're going to be willing to live with the inevitable, sophomore things. He started 13 games last year, played in 14. Set the NFL rookie passing record for touchdowns, looked very good in the process. But the most important thing that he did was that he brought a culture of winning to the team. And I think that his refusal to accept, losing and failure and not even sharpness. So there was a referee practice. It was the second day where Odell Beckham was in camp. And Odell ran a route that he didn't like. And Baker had no problem going up and saying, hey, I need you to be there, and correcting an all-pro wide receiver with the stature of Beckham. So I'm not too worried about Baker and being his team because Beckham responded fine. He worked it out. They talked a little bit after another couple reps about, the miscommunication and getting on the same page. I think Baker's been a godsend for Cleveland, honestly, and I'm very excited to see what he's going to do.
Baker Mayfield going into his second season as the starting quarterback for this football team, looking to take the next leap forward to help this Browns team meet the lofty expectations for them this season. We're talking with Jeff Risdon, managing editor of the Browns Wire, today on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live show. My name is Kevin Gray, host of CT Sports Radio Live on the Sports Radio America Network. Jeff, let's switch sides to the defensive side of the ball. You kind of touched on it with a guy in Myles Garrett and his progression. For you, who is going to be the X factor for this defense that allows them to take the next step? A defense that was in the top half of the NFL last year in total defense, and a team that looks like they're getting better on that side of the ball. Who has been a guy that you consider an X factor going into this season on the defensive side of the ball?
They're very good with Garrett, and I think the defensive line is great. I think they're in really good shape in most of the secondary. Demarius Randall was a fantastic addition last year as a free safety. He played out of position with the Packers, and he showed it to them. Wound up being a great safety pick with Denzel Ward on one side, the rookie Greedy Williams and Terrence Mitchell fighting for the other spot. They're good in those spots. But the big question is at linebacker. Last year, Joe Schobert did not play well. He led the NFL in missed tackles, and he just wasn't the same guy. Remember, he made the Pro Bowl in the winless season. He was the best defender on that team. He played a little bit through injury, but he also was a little bit more tentative and a little bit. He's one of those guys where he's trying to make the tackle too far away from the tackle point. That showed up a lot last year. If he's the guy if he gets close to being the guy that he was in a Pro Bowl year, my goodness, that defense is going to be filthy good. This is a team that will primarily play one or two linebackers in the formation. In the 6 days that I was in Browns camp, I saw them with three linebackers on the field exactly twice. So this is a 4-1 or 4-2 defense. And if Schobert is that one or part of the two, and he certainly will be, he's got to play better. There's a lot. He's the best linebacker on the team in terms of coverage, in terms of anticipating, reading screens, slants, things like that. Carrying a tight end to the safety in the zone. Those little things. He does all those very well, but he's got to do them well this year. He didn't do it so well last year, but has in the past. If he is that guy, this defense is going to be filthy good. They are going to be very, very difficult to score on because their front is good, their run defense is good, and they have playmakers in the back end galore. They've got guys, their third and fourth safety, a guy like Jermaine Whitehead, who's been a very pleasant surprise in camp. They can't keep him off the field. Mac Wilson, pick six in his first ever preseason game. He also had pick six in the intra-squad scrimmage that they played in First Energy Stadium the week before that. Rookie fifth-round linebacker out of Alabama. They have a lot of really good depth on that defense. I don't think their defense gets nearly enough attention. It's easy to overlook when you got Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham on the other side of the ball, and David Njoku and Jarvis Landry and Nick Chubb, by the way, who should have rushed for 1,000 yards until he lost yards on his last carry last year. Their defense doesn't get the attention it deserves. It's a very, very good defense, and I think it's good enough that it can carry them on days where the offense sputters a little bit.
This defense looks to continue to get better as they continue to help out this offense as the Browns look to continue to move forward in the AFC North. We're talking with Jeff Risdon, managing editor of the Browns Wire, today on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. Jeff, final question for you before we let you get out of here. Obviously, both sides of the football have a lot of expectations offensively, defensively, obviously with the new head coach and Freddie Kitchens taking over for this football team. For you, what is your overall expectation for this Cleveland Brown football team, not just given the talent, but given the looks like culture change that is beginning to take place for this football team? For you, what expectations do you have for this football team aside from the ones that other folks have assigned to this football team already?
I said it before. I think I will be very disappointed if this team does not win double-digit games. They went 7-8-1 last year. If they don't win at least 10 games and win the AFC North, because I really do think that they are the clear favorites in the division. I don't want to short shift Baltimore because I think that the Ravens are very dangerous, and every time you overlook them, it's rough. But this team should win the division and compete to host a playoff game. Something that hasn't happened in a very long time in Cleveland. And they have the ability to win any playoff game that they're in. I don't know if they will, but it sure would be great if they could win one. It's been a long time. The city is waiting. They're hungry, and they've got a team that can definitely deliver on that.
It should be a highly anticipated season for the Cleveland Browns. Changes galore on both sides of the football, including the biggest addition for this football team, all-pro wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. Jeff, tell the folks where they can find you on your social media and your platform, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm at Jeff Risdon, that's Risdon, on Twitter. I try to be as interactive as possible on there. You can get all the work at the Browns Wire on USA Today and the Sports Wire apps. And thanks for checking it out. We appreciate it.
Jeff does a tremendous job covering this Cleveland Brown football team. It should be a busy season for him with the new expectations on this Cleveland Brown football team. He's the managing editor of the Browns Wire. Good enough to join us today. His name is Jeff Risdon. Jeff, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. Enjoy the season.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that having me on. Thanks, man.
Again, that is Jeff Risdon, managing editor for the Browns Wire for USA Today. Good enough to join us today on the Clutch Tire Sports Radio live show. As I mentioned, this Browns football team's got a lot of things going for it, man. Look, Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr. Didn't even touch on Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr.'s running mate at the wide receiver position. David Njoku at the tight end position. Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward. They've got a lot. Look, the Browns got a lot of talent, man. Look, I said it last year. Me and my boy Jelani was trying to tell folks last year.
I'm not trying to admit that, though.
I know you're not. Of course, I know you're not. But look, me and Jelani, we were telling folks, man, look, y'all gonna watch out for Cleveland. Maybe, obviously, improving last year, but now going into this year, now they've got some real talent on this football team. Look out, man. Look. I'm not saying that these Cleveland Browns are going to go to the AFC Championship game. Some folks got this team going to the Super Bowl. I don't know about all of that. But I know that this team is, look, this is the thing about the NFL, man. Good talent wins football games. My wild card for this football team, Freddie Kitchens. As Jeff talked about, Freddie Kitchens, up until halfway through last year, hadn't called a play in a game. Now he's running the entire operation for the Cleveland Browns, and he's got a lot of expectations. And to me, Freddie Kitchens is already in the hot seat. You say, Kevin, how could he be in the hot seat and he hasn't even coached the full game yet? He's in the hot seat because there are no excuses. This is the thing about the Cleveland Browns in the window that they're in. They got a young quarterback on a rookie contract with a bunch of talent around it. You need to win now if you're Freddie Kitchens, because the time is now to do so. Because as it gets later and later, and you don't win in these interim years right now, when you've got a rookie contract for a quarterback and you've got other talent around it that you still got on the relative cheap, and you can't win football games, all that does is get more and more expensive as time goes on. See the Dallas Cowboys, or more importantly, better example, see how the Seattle Seahawks have had to manage that over the years. They got a Super Bowl with a guy in Russell Wilson within his first couple of years, and then as things continue to carry on, guess what? They had to start paying guys, and sometimes those guys leave, and sometimes you can't pay every single guy, but you got to do what you can and win a bunch of football games now, and that's where Cleveland is in. They're in a prime window to do some serious winning now because they got a rookie quarterback on a contract that's really team-friendly, and they got a bunch of talent to surround him. We'll see how Freddie Kitchens handles that going into this year. Really important year for the Cleveland Browns. Again, thanks to Jeff Risdon, managing editor of the Browns Wire, for joining us today on the Clutch Tire Sports Radio live show. This is CT Sports Radio live on the Sports Radio American Network, TuneIn Radio, and the TuneIn app. The phone lines are open for the rest of the show, 888-444-0570. And coming up next, Antonio Brown. What are you doing, sir? We'll talk about Antonio Brown and the ultimatum that Mike Mayock laid out next. CT Sports Radio live show. We'll be right back.
My horse has got some kind of problem with his foot.
Oh, no. Well, I hope he's okay.
Me too.
Do you know what Cookie's making for supper tonight?
Beans, I reckon.
That makes sense.
That harmonica's nice.
Yeah, that's soothing. Oh, I'm thinking about getting a new hat.
I think you should.
Cowboy times were boring. They only seem interesting because we watch westerns and everything else on DirecTV. Get 45,000 shows and movies. Get DirecTV. More for your old movies thing. That's our thing.
Requires subscription to DirecTV's top-tier premier programming package. Other packages have fewer titles. Restrictions apply. Visit DirecTV.com.
And now, the worst commercial ever.
Hi, I am Justin Galvin, retired athlete from your local ball team, so I know a thing or two about insuring a landscaping business. I trust the pros, commercial auto and business insurance through Progressive. Get customized insurance solutions that'll hit a grand slam home run for you. We done?
A totally mailed-in celebrity endorsement. Awful. Whereas commercial auto and business insurance through Progressive is anything but. Visit ProgressiveCommercial.com to quote today.
When you're straightforward, people can tell. When you're doing an ad for Old Spice Cooling with Mint Body Wash, you should probably mention it. Old Spice Cooling with Mint Body Wash. Now Walmart.
This is Shaquille O'Neal. You know Shaq, Shaq Diesel, Superman, Big Aristotle, Big Cactus, Big Shamrock. If you're not listening to Sports Radio America, play Shaq Fu.
Welcome back into Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live on the Sports Radio America Network, presented by Media MPC. Go to www.mediampc.com and download the app on your iOS and Android device and get your own press conference on with Media MPC. If you want to catch anything live with me right now, subscribe to the free podcast. Available on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you get your podcast. Clutch Talk Sports Radio. You can see our show currently streaming live on YouTube. YouTube.com/Clutch Talk Sports Radio, and you can watch our show currently streaming live on the Sports Radio Live. Thank you to everyone joining us this afternoon on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show, streaming live on YouTube, of course, on SportsRadioAmerica.com, TuneIn Radio, and the TuneIn app. My producer, Memphis Spence, along for the ride with me today on the CT Sports Radio live show. Preseason weekend number 2 of the NFL is in the books. We are into preseason week number 3 of the National Football League. And, of course, the news, and if you want to get on the conversation, the phone number is 888-444-0570. That's 888-444-0570. That is the Clutch Talk Sports Radio phone line. If you want to get in on the conversation today, the phone lines are open for the rest of the show. And if you want to talk about Antonio Brown, we could talk about Antonio Brown. Because you know why we want to talk about Antonio Brown? Because Antonio Brown won't let us stop talking about Antonio Brown.
That's right.
Okay? That's the reason why we continue to talk about Antonio Brown. And your man, Mike Mayock, has had enough. He's had enough. Mike Mayock, the GM of the Oakland Raiders, of course, coming over from the NFL Network, running the operation for John Gruden's football team, has had it up to here with Antonio Brown and his helmet. Antonio Brown over the weekend was like, nah, I'm not practicing. I'm tired of this helmet thing. If you don't know, Antonio Brown's been looking for a helmet. In fact, he solicited social media to try and find a helmet because the NFL has told him the helmet that you used to wear and you want to wear is illegal now. And we're not going to approve the helmet that you want to wear because it's not safe, quote unquote, for you to wear in NFL games today and hasn't been approved by the NFL. So Antonio Brown's like, look, fine, I might quit. I might quit football altogether. Antonio Brown's not quitting playing football. He's got 30 million reasons not to quit playing football. But your man, Mike Mayock, is like, look, Antonio, we're going to make a statement about this, okay? We're going to put this out here so Hard Knocks can eat it up, so everybody can continue to talk about this football team, even though this shouldn't be an issue. Mike Mayock basically told folks this: look, we have exhausted all the solutions to try and get Antonio Brown the kind of helmet that he wants to wear and can wear that's approved by the NFL. Either Antonio is all in or he's out, period. Basically, in a nutshell, that's what Mike Mayock has said about Antonio Brown and his helmet situation. Look, Antonio Brown and the Raiders' marriage so far has been rocky at best and disastrous already at worst. Drew Rosenhaus going on ESPN tours trying to tell everybody that Antonio Brown and the Raiders are on the same page and that he's going to be on the field by week number 1, and the Raiders haven't exhausted all the options yet for Antonio Brown and his helmet situation. I never thought I would get on this radio show and talk about a helmet as much as I have over the last week and a half with respect to Antonio Brown and the reason why he's not on the football field. It's not about his cryotherapy, frostbitten feet. It's not about the fact that he's trying to get on the same page with Derek Carr. It's not about the fact that the Raiders are on Hard Knocks. It's over a helmet. That's really what we're talking about here, is a helmet. We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice. To go Allen Iverson on you, we're talking about practice. Instead of we're talking about a helmet with Antonio Brown. That's where we are, Memphis. This is how absurd this whole situation has gotten with Antonio Brown. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, look, God bless the Pittsburgh Steelers and their fans right now, because I'm sure they're looking at this entire situation like, look, we're glad we got this headache up out of here because we don't have to deal with this year. We got our happy-go-lucky Juju Smith-Schuster, and Ben Roethlisberger and his 52 kids can go run around on the football field like they want to. But Antonio Brown is not around here because we don't have to deal with that problem that Mike Mayock and John Gruden are dealing with. Now, look, here's the thing with all this, right? I somewhat understand what Antonio Brown wants, but at the same time, my man, get over it. Find a helmet and get on the field. I'm a player's guy, and this is really tough for me because I'm a player's guy. Most of the time, I'm down with these dudes, man. If you feel like you need to go get your money, go get your money, Zeke. Go get your money, Melvin Gordon. Go do what you got to do. I'm on the side of these players, especially since they don't get guaranteed contracts and this, that, and the third, all that stuff with the collective bargaining agreement, this, that, and the third. No problem. But this is ridiculous. I understand that there is a comfortability with wearing a certain helmet that you've worn throughout your entire career. No problem, no harm, no foul. But at the same time, what the NFL is trying to help Antonio Brown do, no matter how veiled of an opportunity it is, they're trying to get him a helmet that allows him to be on the football field. Tom Brady had to go through it. Even your man Jason Witten from the Dallas Cowboys, and Jason Witten loves rules. He loves being old school, and he's having a hard time dealing with this whole helmet thing. But guess what? Jason Witten finds himself on the football field doing what he has to do. Now, Jason Witten's in another situation. Tom Brady, of course, is Tom Brady. For Antonio Brown to let this particular situation be a hang-up as to a reason why he's not on the football field. Yes, I know he was back at practice today. He was out there walkthrough as they get ready to break camp out in Napa, California. Look, here's what else could be going on here. Antonio Brown's going into, year number 10 in the NFL for him? My man just may not want to be in training camp at all. And if that's the case, I ain't got no problem with that either. A 10-year vet who's been doing his thing and doesn't necessarily want to be in training camp, okay, fine. But at the same time, he needs to be in camp because he's playing with a new quarterback, a new offense, and new teammates. He's got to try and figure stuff out. So there really shouldn't be any reason why Antonio Brown isn't on the football field. But more importantly, for John Gruden and Mike Mayock, this is an interesting test situation, how they're going to handle this kind of player. John Gruden and Mike Mayock are real old school, and you saw some of that come out of Mike Mayock yesterday when he was going through his press conference and talking about the situation. Because, look, this isn't a situation normally that Mike Mayock ever thought he was going to have to deal with in dealing with this kind of a player in this kind of an era, dealing with a guy, Antonio Brown, because Mike Mayock isn't of that generation. He isn't of that kind of player that he's had to deal with. So now he's dealing with a guy that he's never really had to deal with before. That's a problem. And Antonio Brown hasn't made it any easier for your guy, Mike Mayock. It hasn't made it any easier for your guy, John Gruden, with respect to trying to figure out how they're going to move forward with this. Because, look, this is something that should not be a distraction. You've got a new offense. You got a new wide receiver in Antonio Brown. You've got Vontaze Burfict. You've got Richie Incognito. You got the hard knock situation. You're dealing with all of this stuff. And for the Oakland Raiders to feel like they have to deal with this now with Antonio Brown and a helmet, to me, it's just ridiculous. So now, look, going forward for this, Antonio Brown has got to figure out, obviously, number one, figure out what kind of helmet he's going to wear, because clearly that's a conniption for him that he just hasn't got over yet. But more importantly, this is just another incident in the long line of Antonio Brown diva-ish nature that has befallen him since he's been in Pittsburgh and now on to Oakland. To me, if you're Antonio Brown, this isn't the way that you want to introduce yourself to your teammates, to your coaching staff, to your general manager, by throwing a hissy fit over a helmet that you know you can't wear and you know won't be approved. And at the same time, you are causing this to be a distraction on a team that has already got enough distractions to deal with. For Antonio Brown to be this far into his career, to be this long into his career as a wide receiver, knowing the kinds of things that teams deal with from year after year, to show this kind of behavior this long now into his time in the NFL, to me, is ridiculous. Look, Antonio Brown is a talented wide receiver. He's one of the best receivers in football, but he's got to get his act together, because this ain't it. You cannot come to a new team acting a fool and a nut over a helmet when you know you can't wear it. And for him to not be able to put himself in a space to figure out, look, man, I'm being a little bit of a distraction. I'm being a little bit of a diva here. I need to get into camp because more importantly, this is what's best for my team, especially when I was the one that wanted to get out of Oakland or get out of Pittsburgh. I was the guy that was like, look, man, I don't want to deal with Ben Roethlisberger and his 52 other kids. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with Mike Tomlin. I don't want to deal with that situation. You got what you wanted. Not only did you get what you want, you got more money on top of it. And not only did you get more money on top of it, you got more guaranteed money on top of it to the point where you're one of the top 5 paid wide receivers in the NFL. Antonio, what more do you want, sir? You got your situation. You got your new quarterback. You got your new coach. You got your new GM. Figure it out with a helmet. That's it. Look, I got a helmet. I got a toy helmet here. You want to wear that? You want to look? Do what you got to do to get on the field. Because look, man, the Raiders got too much to look. They got Patrick Mahomes to deal with. They got Phillip Rivers to deal with. They've got the Denver Broncos to deal with and Von Miller. I'm talking about the defense, not the offense for the Denver Broncos. They got a whole lot to deal with. And this is really important for Derek Carr because if I'm Derek Carr and I'm looking at this situation, I'm like, man, look here, dog. Like, I need you on the field, man. I don't need you complaining over a helmet. I don't need you complaining over this, that, and the third. I don't need you getting into a cryotherapy chamber with no, footwear and burning up your feet, man. I need you on the field. So to me, this is just a completely worrisome distraction for the Oakland Raiders. And look, I'm not trying to bag on Antonio Brown. I think Antonio Brown's a decent guy. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's a little naive at times, says some really dumb things, doesn't have a lot of perspective on a lot of different things. But at the same time, I don't think he's a bad guy. But to let this be the ultimate distraction on a team that's brand new to him, that a team that is trying to learn about him, and for this to be it, that's not what time it is, man. It's not what time it is. And there's 30 million reasons why he needs to be on the football field. And he's got an opportunity to do that. Figure it out. And like I said, Mike Mayock is a guy who we've come to know, obviously, earned his time with the NFL Network. He doesn't like this kind of stuff. He doesn't know necessarily how to deal with these young dudes, these new dudes. I like to call them new dudes. Them new dudes being these young cats that don't have a filter. They don't care how you feel about it. They don't care how you think you should feel about it. They're going to do what they feel like they have to do. And that's the part where John Gruden and Mike Mayock are really going to figure out who they are as coaches, as executives in this era with this kind of player, because they haven't had to deal with this kind of player. We say, Kevin, well, John Gruden has dealt with some really eccentric personalities in his time, his first time when he was in Oakland, and also with Tampa Bay when he had a guy like Keyshawn Johnson. Yeah, I understand that. Keyshawn Johnson is a different kind of animal. That cat just likes to say what's on his mind. Look, I didn't have a problem with Keyshawn Johnson's behavior necessarily.
Yeah, but he was more about winning, though. I don't know what Antonio Brown seems like he's showing out for Hard Knocks or something.
Now, look, I've never been a guy that's going to question the dude's winning because to play football, number one, you got to have a couple of screws loose, okay, to play football for one and to do it at a high level. And to get to this level, I'm not going to be the guy that's questioning the guy if he wants to win. I do question the actions by Antonio Brown with respect to how he carries himself on the field, off the field, and some of the things he says, but I'm not going to be the guy that questions whether or not he wants to win, because I think ultimately he wants to win. Otherwise, he wouldn't be competing at the highest level of the game of football based on where he is now and how good he's been. Because it's not all of this is a distraction from how spectacular a wide receiver Antonio Brown is. He's a spectacular wide receiver. And for this to be the distraction that causes us to question whether or not he is going to fit on the Oakland Raiders, think about what I'm saying here. I'm talking about a player being a distraction on the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders themselves are one of the most diva franchises in the history of the NFL. I'm talking about a guy being a bigger distraction than the Oakland Raiders. That tells you where we are with Antonio Brown, that this guy could stand out on this roster in this with this franchise, because the Oakland Raiders have been one of the most marketable franchises in the history of the NFL. So for this guy to be this kind of distraction with this franchise blows my mind, especially when you have that eccentric of a head coach and John Gruden. That's just another conversation for another day. But again,
I'm just saying, like, if you want to win, one of the famous quotes from my high school coach: "If you want to win, you want to practice." Antonio Brown doesn't want to practice. That's why he's doing all this stuff. Could you see Jerry Rice skipping out on practice? Keyshawn Johnson skipping out on? No, those dudes didn't skip practice.
See, and that's the thing that's part of what I'm talking about. How do you figure out this kind of player? Because look, today's player is much different than Jerry Rice, different than Keyshawn Johnson, different from these old school dudes. Even Michael Strahan, people forget, even Michael Strahan, toward the end of his career, wasn't trying to be in training camp. Look, when you get to this point in your career as a 10-year vet in the NFL, who is trying to go to camp? I wouldn't be trying to go to camp low key. I wouldn't be trying to go to camp either. But I understand the paces of why you have to be in training camp, which is why so many folks are upset with Ezekiel Elliott not being in camp because he's got to be in football shape. But at the same time, I understand where Antonio Brown's coming from. If that's what it is, I ain't trying to be in training camp either. For who? For what? I've been doing this for 10 years. I don't need to be in camp. But at the same time, the situation is different. He's got a new team, a new coach, new quarterback, new situation.
Right.
He needs to be in camp. So his situation is a little different from that standpoint. But for the main crux of him not being in camp is to be complaining over a helmet, as my man Mochi said, not a game, a helmet. That is where we are with Antonio Brown. Again, Antonio Brown's a phenomenal football player. Dude, figure it out. Find a helmet, get in camp, and get this thing worked out. Because if this continues to go into the regular season as a reason we're talking about the Raiders and Antonio being a distraction from that standpoint, that's insane. That is absolutely insane. They've got 3 weeks to get this figured out. If he can't find a helmet between now and then, and we're going to be talking about this into the regular season, could you imagine? Look, they're trying to get ready to go to Las Vegas. This is their last season in Oakland. They've already tried to repair the relationship, the guy with Oakland, by getting into there for a stadium for this year only so they could get out of there and get to Vegas, going into next year. And now to deal with this and Antonio Brown coming in here with all this extra, ish, it's ridiculous. Oh, my goodness. Look.
Oh boy!
Look, man, this is what Antonio Brown does to me.
Listen, man. I understand. As a Steelers diehard, I understand, and believe me, that monkey is off my back. If you could say that. He's somewhere else. The drama's somewhere else. There's no masking the drama. We're not trying to hide it over here anymore. And believe me, he's a very talented dude. Probably best wide receiver out of Western Michigan, honestly. But or Central Michigan, but he's probably still one of the top 5 guys in the league in terms of catching the ball and everything else. I put him right up there with Larry Fitzgerald and all the other greats. But the drama, nobody needs that, especially on a new team. You got to learn the plays, learn the blocking schematics. That's the other thing that Antonio Brown doesn't do very well is block. And if he doesn't know the blocking schematics in this Raiders offense, I don't know, man. You can't let your man be the guy that's always stopping the running back trying to get on the outside. I mean, it happens way too often. But Antonio Brown, man, hope you have a good career. I hope to see you in Canton. But, good luck, bro.
Oh, man, that's how Steeler fans sound all over the country, man. Good luck with that Antonio Brown thing, Oakland. Oh, boy, Antonio Brown. Hey, I'm going to start giving him the Kevin Durant treatment. Antonio Brown. Kevin Durant. This is the Clutch Star Sports Radio Live show on Sports Radio America Network, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. Thank you to everyone joining us live today on our show and watching our show streaming live on YouTube. We're coming back at the top of the hour for more Clutch Star Sports Radio Live. Dwight Howard and the Los Angeles Lakers. Could a reunion be in store for those two? Call me. I know you've got some thoughts on that. Next on the CT Sports Radio Live show. Come back at the top of the hour on the Sports Radio America Network. Come back.
Snickers presents 3 p.m. Brainstorms, world-changing ideas that unfortunately were conceived during the hungriest time of day. Like this idea from April 2015.
I think we should improve credit cards, make them even more convenient.
What if we put like a chip in most cards, not all, and instead of handing over your card, we'll just have this unmarked slot that you have to put it in.
Right, so no more swiping?
Well, sometimes you'll still swipe.
How will people know whether to swipe or insert the chip?
Whichever they do first, we'll just say that's wrong.
Okay. Now these chips, they'll be read instantly?
Well, you're going to have to feel out how far to push it in before it really registers.
Physical challenge. Smart.
Thank you. But after that, I think it should take 25 seconds or so.
All right, so it's not a time saver.
No, it's about convenience.
Okay.
And we'll announce this massive change to everyone.
You know what? I just think it's more fun for people to figure it out on their own.
People love to be challenged.
And we should also make it so you have to tip on everything.
I don't see why not.
I think we're onto something here.
Let's make it happen.
Don't brainstorm hungry. A reminder from your friends at Snickers.
Megan, you're the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen.
Say it again.
You're the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen.
Again?
You're the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You're the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen.
Now, say it like you're feeding me chicken parm.
Dream better in a better bed. Get bed matched today at Mattress Warehouse.
SleepHappens.com. All I'm saying is there was a bowl of water, a goldfish from a carnival, and a high-powered dehumidifier. Now there's just a bowl and a goldfish. Now just a bowl.
We just told you a sad story in 15 seconds. Imagine what Geico can do in 15 minutes. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. So go to geico.com.
You're listening to Sports Radio America.
Welcome back to Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live. Now here's your host, Kevin Gray.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live on the Sports Radio America Network, presented by Media MPC. Go to www.medianpc.com and download the app on your iOS and Android device and get your mobile press conference on with Media MPC. You can watch our show currently streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Clutch Talk Sports Radio. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel today for Clutch Talk Sports Radio. Visit ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com and follow us all over social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at CT Sports Radio. That is at CT Sports Radio for everything for the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. Thank you to all those joining us live today on our show on SportsRadioAmerica.com, TuneIn Radio, and the TuneIn app. And again, streaming us live currently right now on YouTube. My producer, Memphis, Fitz along for the ride with me today on the CT Sports Radio live show on the Sports Radio America Network. Coming off tremendous action across the entire sporting landscape this weekend. UFC 241 in the books. Stipe Miocic, the new UFC heavyweight champion of the world, a now two-time heavyweight champion. How about Nate Diaz coming back after 3 years away from the sport, pieced up Anthony Pettis in 3 rounds to earn himself a unanimous decision win, calling out Jorge Masvidal. We're going to see who the best gangster is, East Coast, West Coast, between Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz. I hope they get it on soon in the octagon. So tremendous action out in the UFC this weekend. Little League World Series action. Love the little guys in the Little League World Series out there in Williamsport doing their thing, as they try to win a championship, USA versus the world, that kind of thing. So some really cool action this time of the year as we get you that much closer to the NFL. We'll talk a little college football a little bit later on in the show. The AP Top 25 is out. Spoiler alert, Alabama is not number 1 in the AP Top 25. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Justin Fields, I know a guy Mo Cheese is a little disappointed in because he's now playing for the Ohio State University, named the starting quarterback for Ohio State earlier today. So a lot of news all around sports over the weekend and into today, and including some news that took place over the weekend that I didn't expect to talk about on today's show because nobody was thinking that this was even a thing that could potentially happen. But yet here we are in 2019, and the Los Angeles Lakers, now remember the Los Angeles Lakers dealing with some issues right now. Your man Boogie Cousins tore his ACL in a workout last week in Las Vegas, lost for this upcoming season for the Los Angeles Lakers. They do have JaVale McGee at the center position. They're trying to figure out who they could potentially bring in for their center position. Joakim Noah is a consideration. I don't know how serious the Lakers will take that. But there's a name that all of a sudden has started to come up and has come up, and the Lakers are going to talk to. Memphis, the Los Angeles Lakers are seriously interested. This is according to your man, Sham Charania of The Athletic. They are
Right.
seriously interested in bringing back one Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard, you say? Yes.
I mean,
look. That Dwight Howard, you can go see why I'm putting so much emphasis on Dwight Howard. Just go type in Dwight Howard and see what comes up on your Google search for Dwight Howard. I'm not going to get into that today because this is a family show. So I'm going to talk about Dwight Howard on the basketball court. Dwight Howard, of course, is an 8-time All-Star, a former three-time Defensive Player of the Year. People, look. Folks have this conversation all the time with respect to Dwight Howard. Kevin, is Dwight Howard a Hall of Famer? Is Dwight Howard a guy that should be considered to go into the Basketball Hall of Fame? And I say, wait, Dwight Howard, former 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, former 8-time All-Star, multiple-time rebounding champion in the NBA, is he a Hall of Famer? Of course he's a Hall of Famer. Is he a Hall of Fame person? Probably not. But as a Hall of Fame basketball player, there's no question Dwight Howard is a Hall of Fame basketball player. Now remember, your man Dwight Howard, let's go back a little bit to yesteryear. Your man Dwight Howard spent one season with the Los Angeles Lakers, played 76 games for the Lakers during the 2012-2013 season, and let's just call it an abject disaster. Let's just say it didn't work out the first time that the Los Angeles Lakers had Dwight Howard. Your man Kobe Bryant, at one point, once he came back, did Dwight Howard when he was playing for the Houston Rockets, called your man soft. Soft. Now, that's coming from Kobe Bryant, one of the toughest dudes on planet Earth. Kobe's a little crazy, but Kobe's also one of the toughest dudes on planet Earth. Called your man Dwight Howard soft. Your man Dwight Howard has been considered a cancer among locker rooms all across the NBA. In fact, Chris Broussard got on First Things First this morning with Nick Wright and Chris Carter. Said one of the things about Dwight Howard that GMs couldn't do fast enough was get him out. That is how much Dwight Howard is not liked in NBA circles. And it's the thing. It's not a rumored dislike. It's not one of those things where it's like, you hear things here and there. No, there is a much larger universal feeling, very strong universal feeling about Dwight Howard. Dudes don't like Dwight Howard. They don't like the way he gets down with his business. You remember the episode they had in Orlando with your man Stan Van Gundy and how all that went down. Folks don't necessarily feel Dwight Howard in the way he gets down with his business. Now look, to Dwight Howard's credit, he has tried. He has gone on a little bit of a media tour. He did a sit-down interview with Kristen Leahy of Fox Sports 1. Trying to clear up some of the misconceptions about Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard just recently got engaged, so you think he's trying to get some of those things together off of the basketball court that have plagued him as far as his reputation off the basketball court. And his play on the basketball court has left much to be desired, also namely because he can't stay on the basketball court. He's been dealing with a little bit of a butt injury. That's the best way I can put that. You can infer from that what you want to. I'm going to leave that there. Only played 9 games for the Washington Wizards last year among that abject disaster of a franchise that has no John Wall. They're trying to figure out what to do with Bradley Beal out there for the Washington Wizards. And Dwight Howard didn't mesh well, and he was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. And the Memphis Grizzlies now are hanging on to Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard's most likely going to get bought out by the Memphis Grizzlies, which I'm sure Memphis is just like, please get him out of here as quickly as
please.
So the Lakers are like, okay, another man's trash may be our treasure. Now, here's the rub with Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard, for all of his issues and his inability to stay healthy on the basketball court in recent years, and coupled with the fact that we don't know necessarily how much Dwight Howard has left, what kind of an addition would he be to the Los Angeles Lakers? Now, I'm of the opinion, humble opinion, I think this could work. Now, here's why I say this could work. You got some really strong personalities in this locker room for the Los Angeles Lakers I'm talking about. LeBron James, obviously, going into year 16 of his time in the NBA. Rajon Rondo, NBA champion, been there, done that. Yes, rubbed some people the wrong way, but at the same time, a lot of folks like Rajon Rondo. Good leader guy. He's a leader guy. Okay? You've got other personalities on this team, veterans on this team that have been there, done that know how to be in a locker room and deal with personalities in a space. A guy in Danny Green now is on this basketball team, has been there, done that, of course, with the San Antonio Spurs and the Toronto Raptors, and has done well in structured locker rooms. I think Dwight Howard is at a point in his career, and he's talked about this. Dwight Howard is sick of his reputation. Dwight Howard is sick of not being able to be a guy that's not considered a guy who can help a team win a championship. People forget. In 2008, 2009, Dwight Howard was the most dominant big man in the NBA. That's how good Dwight Howard was. Dwight Howard beat LeBron James on his way to an NBA Finals where, yes, they got promptly dismissed and dismantled by the Los Angeles Lakers in that Finals. But at the same time, Dwight Howard was that guy. He was that dude back then, beating LeBron James to get to an NBA Finals to take on the Los Angeles Lakers. So people forget how good, how talented, and how skilled Dwight Howard is, because obviously can never shoot. Obviously, his offensive skills are limited. But we're talking about a defensive presence, a guy who could block shots, a guy who could obviously rebound as a 5-time rebounding champion, 3-time defensive player of the year. Dwight Howard was that guy and was that good. And until his situation soured in Orlando, we considered him the best big man at the time. And then injuries started taking over, got traded several times. Charlotte, Washington, he's gotten traded several times, obviously, in Atlanta, had that failed trip to Atlanta. All the things that have happened to Dwight Howard, and then you mix in all the off-the-court stuff. Again, it's a family show, so I'm not going to talk about that. But all the off-the-court stuff has really complicated Dwight Howard's legacy. Dwight Howard now has an opportunity to go to Los Angeles if the Lakers, who have been granted permission by the Memphis Grizzlies to talk to Dwight Howard, and there's mutual interest between Dwight Howard and the Los Angeles Lakers about a potential reunion together. This reunion would be obviously much more different than the time that he had in Los Angeles the first time. There's no Kobe Bryant on the court, that is. And the situation with the locker room that's there, I think, coupled with where Dwight Howard is attempting to go personally, coupled with where Dwight Howard's trying to go professionally, and realizing that this is probably it for him with respect to chances of not only winning, but playing on a really good team in a situation that's built to win now. The Los Angeles Lakers are built to win now. And think about it from a basketball perspective. LeBron James running the show. He's going to do a lot of point guard play, which he's done pretty much his entire career anyway. He's going to be running the show. Your man Anthony Davis is going to be able to play the natural 4 position, do what he does. Score, rebound, defend, shoot, do whatever Anthony Davis wants on the basketball court. He's going to have that kind of freedom to do that. If all you're asking Dwight Howard to do is say, sir, rebound the basketball, protect the paint, block shots. That's all we're asking you to do. I don't need nothing from you on the offensive end. I don't need you having to score. I just need you to catch a few lobs, a few dunks, and then on the defensive end of the basketball court, rebound, defend, block shots. Can you do that? Dwight Howard, for all the baggage that comes with Dwight Howard, should be able to do that. And if that is all Frank Vogel, if that is all Jason Kidd, if that is all the Lakers are asking him to do, and you have LeBron James, and you have Anthony Davis, and you have Kyle Kuzma obviously carrying the scoring load because Dwight Howard doesn't have to do any of that. Dwight Howard, I think, is a perfect fit for what the Lakers are trying to do. You say, Kevin, that sounds nuts. You know what? It's the Lakers. Lakers have been kind of nutty for a little while now, okay? Things aren't necessarily the same way they used to be. They got LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Rajon Rondo, Kyle Kuzma, JaVale McGee. Because here's what's going to happen if Dwight Howard doesn't come. Because I don't think Joakim Noah is a real option here. He's too old, too slow. Wouldn't fit in, I don't think, with the Los Angeles Lakers or what they're trying to do. Dwight Howard's much more athletic, even for all his injuries and all the stuff he's going through. He's much more athletic than Joakim Noah. So I think he would fit in from an athleticism standpoint. And you put that lineup out there, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Dwight Howard in a starting 5 together. JaVale McGee can come off the bench and give you the 12 to 15 minutes that you need for him, the energy that he brings. Because he can, remember, JaVale McGee can only play in spurts, okay? JaVale McGee can only play 10, 12 minutes at a time. And you don't want JaVale McGee playing big minutes in these games for the Los Angeles Lakers at this point. That's not what you want. Dwight Howard's been there, done that. He's been in those situations. He's been asked to be the man. He's been asked to play big minutes. He's been asked to have big-time games. He's done that time and time again in his NBA career. Now all you're asking Dwight Howard to do is simply, sir, rebound, defend, and block shots. Can you do that? Yes. If I'm Dwight Howard, yes, I can do that. Can you do that on a minimum contract? Because that's all that we can offer you, because all the money is pretty much gone at this point. We're going to use our exception that we got for DeMarcus Cousins' injury. Can you come in on a minimum contract and do those things for us, the Los Angeles Lakers? That answer should be 100% yes from Dwight Howard. And if that answer is 100% yes, and you get the idea from Dwight Howard that he's committed, given all the things that he's gone through and trying to get corrected in his personal, on and off the court basketball life. If that is the case, to me, this is a low risk, high reward situation for the Los Angeles Lakers. And if that's the case, the Lakers are right back in it as a favorite to win an NBA championship. To me, they're still a favorite to win the NBA championship, even with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Them adding DeMarcus Cousins just put them over the top. I think for one season or 2 seasons, Dwight Howard can do enough, and that locker room, to me, is strong enough with the personalities that are in it to make sure that Dwight Howard doesn't get out of line. Here's how I know LeBron James is built to handle this. LeBron James dealt with J.R. Smith in a locker room. If LeBron James can handle J.R. Smith in a locker room, he can handle your man Dwight Howard in a locker room. No problem, no harm, no foul. That is why I think Dwight Howard fits with what the Lakers want, but more importantly, what they need, because their locker room is strong enough, and Dwight Howard has a skill set that, yes, may be somewhat diminished, but at the same time offers them exactly what they need. Defense, shot blocking, and rebounding. And if that's the case, no problem. If I'm the Lakers, I'd do it. Joakim Noah, I'm not doing that. Too old, too slow, doesn't fit. Dwight Howard, athletic, big, and at this point in his career, at least to me, it appears that Dwight Howard's trying to get it together. If that's the case, the Lakers go ahead and do it. Now, I don't know how Lakers necessarily feel about that. I'm getting some chat in the chat room on our YouTube show. Mochi says, no. Dwight butthurt Howard. That's all you need to know. Laker fans, and he's a Laker fan. I don't know how Laker fans feel about that. But at the same time, if you look at it from the bright side, with that sunny sun, with the sun in Los Angeles shining down on Staples Center, especially with the Battle of LA commencing, look, man, it might work. And who's to say not to kick the tires on it? Kick the tires on it. I'm not saying that the Lakers are ultimately going to bring him in. I think they should go ahead and do it. But there's no harm in kicking the tires on Dwight Howard. I think it's a match made in proverbial basketball heaven between the Lakers and Dwight Howard. We'll see, though. We'll see. But I like it. I like it. That's just me. The phone number is 888-444-0570. 888-444-0570. Hello. This is Clutch Time Sports Radio live from the Sports Radio American Network, TuneIn Radio, Andy, tune in. I think I'm going to be getting a phone call here because I think I got some Laker fans who aren't happy with what I just said about Dwight Howard. That's okay. Coming up next, so what we plan to talk about, Zeke Elliott, Jerry Jones, not feeling it right now between each other. At least Zeke's not feeling it. We'll talk about that next. Your phone calls, 888-444-0570. This is Real Clutch Sports Talk, CT Sports Radio Live. We'll be right back on the Sports Radio American Network. Come back with us.
Josephine seems to be coming along on the half the court.
Indeed. Did I tell you the Viscount got a new powdered wig and fainting couch?
Yes. Yes, you did. He put the couch in the parlor, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed. Do you need a new powdered wig?
No, thank you. This one is fairly new. Unless you find it wanting in some way.
No, it's nice.
Thank you.
19th century Victorian life was boring. It only seems interesting because we watch literary adaptations and everything else on DirecTV. Get 45,000 shows and movies. Get DirecTV. More for your period drama thing. That's our thing.
Requires subscription to DirecTV's top-tier premier programming package. Other packages have fewer titles. Restrictions apply. Visit DirecTV.com.
Snickers presents 3 p.m. Brainstorms, world-changing ideas that unfortunately were conceived during the hungriest time of day. Like this one from June 1992.
I think we should redo all airport bathrooms.
Okay.
Let's start by replacing the toilet flushers with laser sensors. Can we get those?
Well, flushers have worked fine for 100 years, but lasers sound fun. What if
they don't work?
How about we add a really tiny button that's impossible to find?
Ooh, you know what? Or we could startle people with sudden random flushes.
There you go.
Let's do both. What else?
Replace all the paper towels with fans?
Smart. Yes, that'll save energy.
No, because I think they should run 10 minutes longer than necessary and have the heat and force of a jet engine.
Fun. Love jets. What about sinks?
Let's give them non-functioning sensors.
Non-functioning, okay. But then no one can wash their hands.
Right. And then they won't waste our hot air drying their hands. They'll just leave.
I love it. Change every airport bathroom on Earth.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thanks.
Don't brainstorm hungry. A reminder from your friends at Snickers.
Blood orange, you funky. Blood orange, you fresh. Blood orange, you zesty. Blood orange, you the best. Febreze now has blood orange. From the kitchen, food car. You can clean away stinks with a fresh twist. It don't matter where you are. Let's try it. Funky. Febreze, you fresh. Let's try it. Zesty. Blood orange and spritz. Breathe happy Febreze.
You are listening to Sports Radio America. Sports, anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back in the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live on the Sports Radio America Network presented by Media MPC. Go to www.mediampc.com and download the app on your iOS and Android device and get your mobile press conference on with Media MPC. Visit ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com. That's ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com for everything from the CC Sports Radio live show. And follow us all over Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and social media at CC Sports Radio. Phone number is 888-444-0570. That's 888-444-0570 if you want to get in on the conversation today on the CNT Sports Radio live show. My name is Memphis Spencer on the ride with me on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show live on the Sports Radio American Network, TuneIn Radio, and the TuneIn app, and streaming live currently on YouTube. Looks like we got a phone call because last segment I said that Dwight Howard would be a good fit for the Los Angeles Lakers, and I think it's a low-risk, high-reward move, and I think I got a Laker fan on the phone who may not necessarily be feeling that. Mo Cheese, I believe, is on the line. Mo Cheese, are you there, sir?
Clutch Talk Sports, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling good, feeling great. I think Dwight Howard should be a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. I think you might disagree with that.
I'm sure you do feel that way. I'm sure you would enjoy the NBA season and being able to talk about the circus that could become. And I think that's my biggest issue with Dwight Howard. We already have enough of what I think is going to be a media circus. I think we have enough of what's going to be a expectation from our team. I think if you add in more pieces to this, especially with the Dwight Howard, a player that already previously played for LA, has already had a bad track reputation in regards to other players. If it doesn't go well, then I think you start to really question the Lakers' brass again, number one, on decision making. And I think as much as you can eliminate those kind of questions, you have to do that work prior to bringing Dwight Howard in, man, is only opening up the circus gates at this point. I would prefer, and maybe this is no better, I would prefer Carmelo Anthony over Dwight Howard.
See, now, the thing about that is, and I've heard that too, but Carmelo Anthony doesn't feel a need that the Lakers have. The Lakers got enough wing players. You're good there. You need a center because JaVale McGee, I don't think, is going to be a guy that needs to be asked to play big minutes for them. He only could play in spurts last year for the Lakers, and I don't think they want to ask him to do that again going into this year, especially in win-now mode that they're in. Dwight Howard, at least to me, again, all the off-the-court stuff is fair. The media circus that comes with Dwight Howard may not be worth the distraction. But at the same time, Dwight Howard feels a need.
What about Greg Monroe? I was going to say, what about Greg Monroe possibly?
I mean,
like, get a traditional center so that you can put AD at the 4 position where he wants to play Greg Monroe is out there. He's a older version center, NBA type center, and he's going to play in the post versus having a diva player on the team. You ask somebody that's low risk, high reward, if even a reward, but you fill the space and you know that you're not going to have the issue. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to listen, Clutch.
I appreciate the phone call, Mochis. Look, I think Dwight Howard is much more athletic than Greg Monroe. Greg Monroe, yes, can fill the need of a traditional center position, but he's also a little bit slow. Doesn't get up and down the floor as well as what Dwight Howard could and used to do in his prime. And I'm not saying that Dwight Howard can still do those things at that high of a level at what he was doing in 2008, 2009, 2010, that kind of thing. But I think Dwight Howard still has enough left in the tank, more so than Greg Monroe can provide, or Joakim Noah in a similar situation. I like it. Again, if you're a Laker fan and you have concerns about Dwight Howard and the baggage that comes along with him and the circus and everything that comes along with Dwight Howard, that's valid. That's extremely valid. And you're more than well within your right to question the validity of the decision-making abilities of a Rob Pelinka, of a Jeannie Buss, and the organization that runs the Los Angeles Lakers. That is ultimately fair. I get it and understand it, but at the same time, Dwight Howard fits a need. All the stuff that comes with him, I think the locker room is strong enough to overcome that and to handle that. Again, LeBron James dealt with J.R. Smith and everything that comes with J.R. Smith. If he can handle that, I think he can handle a guy, especially Dwight Howard, who's been there, done that, and had success on his own prior to having the problems that he's had ultimately over the last 4 to 5 years, and especially if he's healthy. Because if he's healthy, now we're talking about a completely different situation. With respect to stuff going on the football field again, we are in the middle of preseason NFL action, obviously. Man, one of the biggest conversations down here as far as the Dallas Cowboys are concerned is your man, Ezekiel Elliott. Now, Ezekiel Elliott is back in the States. He is back with not back with the Dallas Cowboys. He's back in the States as he prepares for the upcoming 2019 NFL season. The Dallas Cowboys open up, of course, on September 8th in Week 1, and they hope to have Ezekiel Elliott on the football field. But one of the training camp storylines for this Dallas Cowboy football team has been rookie Memphis running back, former Memphis Tiger running back, Tony Pollard. Now, Tony Pollard has played really well in camp, looked really good this past weekend on Saturday in Hawaii against the Los Angeles Rams and his ex-teammate Darrell Henderson, who's playing for the Los Angeles Rams. Tony Pollard's looked really good in camp. Run the ball between the tackles, which is something that he doesn't necessarily do all that well, but showed he could do that. Is a dynamic guy who can get out in space, shifty back, pretty quick back, can run pretty fast, and he's looked really good. And he's had his opportunities to shine because obviously Ezekiel Elliott has not been in camp. Now, the Cowboys obviously have taken notice of Tony Pollard. Your man did miss and completely whiffed on a block on a blindside linebacker and nearly got Dak Prescott killed. Well, did get Dak Prescott killed because he got sacked for 12 yards, for a 12-yard loss. But other than that, Tony Pollard looked really good in camp. Really good in preseason games. Had a touchdown against the Los Angeles Rams. Looked really good. No problem. No harm, no foul, okay? Ezekiel Elliott, of course, is the best, to me, the best running back in football. He's not in camp. He's been the rushing champion 2 out of his first 3 seasons in the NFL. Should have been the rushing champ all 3 of his seasons if Roger Goodell didn't have his head up his tail and suspended him for 6 games. But that's another conversation for another day. Ezekiel Elliott, though, wants a new contract. He wants his money, and he wants it now, and he wants to be the highest paid running back in the NFL. And I don't have a problem with any of that. No problem, no harm, no foul. Jerry Jones, though, your man, speaking to reporters after the game on Saturday evenings, talking to reporters about how Tony Pollard has looked. Ezekiel Elliott, about his contract situation and how things are going with that. Memphis, let's play the sound of my man Clarence Hill asking Jerry Jones about Tony Pollard and how he responded with relation to Ezekiel Elliott.
Is Pollard your best negotiator with Zeke? Who? Pollard. Zeke who? He's got your camera.
We're having some fun. Not at your expense.
But seriously, let's talk about what he's done and continuing to show.
He just, now I will say this, that was a critical blitz pickup that got our quarterback killed. You got to be able to make that block.
Okay.
But what's amazing for him to come in here, and he hadn't done that much. He knows exactly what to do, and he knows how to do it. So it is. He goes out there and he plays to that level, and he's going to be, if he continues this through the next several weeks, he's going to be right in the middle of it early. And that will really complement what we're doing with Zeke.
Okay.
Not replace that, and I mean that. Not replace it, and nobody's getting cute here, but it'd certainly be a great compliment to have a great running game with I can picture those guys in the same sets at the same time out there and really giving those defenses fits.
Yeah. Ezekiel Elliott heard that. Not only did Ezekiel Elliott hear that, his agent, Rocky Arsenault, heard that. And here is what Rocky Arsenault had to say, Ezekiel Elliott's agent, about that quip from your man Jerry Jones about Zeke Who. Quote, this is from Rocky Arsenault, Ezekiel Elliott's agent, says, quote, "I didn't think it was funny, and neither did Zeke. We actually thought it was disrespectful," quote, end quote. Oh, boy. This is not good. Now, look, let's get some perspective on this, okay? Ezekiel Elliott has had a lot of things buried by your man, Jerry Jones. In fact, Jerry Jones has done a lot for Ezekiel Elliott. You can find out why and what, because the laundry list is quite long. In fact, Ezekiel Elliott just came off of a situation where he just foiled an extortion plot attempt against him from that top flight security out in Las Vegas trying to extort him out of $500,000 in a meeting with Jerry Jones, Ohio State, and Cowboys tickets for a year, this, that, and the third. You could see the reports on that. So it's not like Ezekiel Elliott at times has put himself in the best position. But for Jerry Jones, even in a jokingly manner, to say Zeke Who is kind of disrespectful in the words of your man Rocky Arsenault and Ezekiel Elliott. Now look, man, Tony Pollard's been really good. He's been excellent. As Jerry talked about, the Cowboys have taken notice of what your man is doing. But what you cannot do is be disrespectful in negotiations when your most important player is still sitting on the sidelines. I don't care if the Cowboys go 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 10-2, however many games Ezekiel Elliott decides to miss, because I think that's where we're headed. And this comment, to me, does not help the idea of Ezekiel Elliott getting back on the football field, because now what you've managed to do, Jerry, whether jokingly or not, is you've managed to get Ezekiel Elliott upset when there was no reason to. He already feels disrespected by the fact that the Cowboys haven't come to the table to make him the highest paid running back in the NFL. And the reasons why they haven't done that is because they're trying to say, Zeke, we got to take care of everybody else. Zeke says, to heck with everybody else. I'm the best player on this football team. I'm the reason Dak Prescott's about to get over $30 million. I'm the reason that this defense is as fresh and is as good as they are, because I'm running the football down teams' throats to the tune of the highest yards per game average ever since I set foot into this league in 2016. I'm the reason why the Dallas Cowboys are in position to be considered a potential Super Bowl contender, because it's me. I'm the straw that stirs the drink. I'm the best thing going since Emmitt Smith ever set foot on this football field. That is me, Ezekiel Elliott, best running back in the NFL. Pay me. Show me the money. Show me the money. That's all that this has come down to. Show me the money. Jerry's like, nah, I'm not showing you the money. You know why? Because I got to pay Dak. I got to pay Amari. I got to pay Byron Jones. I got to pay Jalen Smith. I got to pay Leighton Vander Esch. I got to pay all these other dudes. And we talked about this earlier. This is what happens when you draft well and you've got a team on a rookie contract at the quarterback position and you're trying to win now. Dudes' contracts are going to come up. And here's the thing. Ezekiel Elliott's a running back. The shelf life of a running back is very short and the window is very small. You see why Melvin Gordon's trying to cash out even after one productive season in the NFL. That is why he's trying to cash out. Ezekiel Elliott's like, look, man, I got 3 years of this under my books. I've been healthy all three of these years. And the only reason why I missed those 6 games is because Roger Goodell suspended me when he shouldn't have. So now Ezekiel Elliott's looking like, look, man, I don't need you disrespecting me and my age and disrespecting me talking about Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's done nothing. He's played against a bunch of number 2s and number 3s and looked good doing it. I've done it in the biggest games on the biggest stages for 3 years. And you're talking about some Zeke Who? Jerry Jones is making this so painfully unnecessary to have these kinds of conversations and have these kinds of jokes come out. And look, and for a guy who's in Dallas, who's an unapologetic Dallas Cowboy fan, and have been so since the time I was in diapers, this is absolutely infuriating to watch this unfold in the unnecessary manner that it has unfolded in over the last several weeks. Again, I do not have a problem with Ezekiel Elliott holding out. I do not, because he's earned every single dime of it. And here's the rub with all of this. Jerry Jones is a very prideful man. He has a lot of money and a lot of businesses, and it's spread out over a lot of different industries, and he's been successful for years and years and years. But here's the rub with Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones does not like to be embarrassed. Jerry Jones does not like to be made a fool of. Jerry Jones is a businessman, to quote Jay-Z. He is a business, and what he's not going to do is jeopardize what he believes is best for business. I understand that from Jerry's point of view, but Jerry also understands this, and he has understood it from the time that he owned the Dallas Cowboys to the time that he unceremoniously fired Tom Landry, to the time he brought in Jimmy Johnson, to the time that he got rid of Jimmy Johnson, and the time he brought in Barry Switzer, and they haven't won a championship since 1996. Jerry Jones values one thing above all else: winning. And if you put Ezekiel Elliott in a position where he says, you know what, Jerry, I'm going to sit out, because this is the only leverage to me, based on, yes, all the accomplishment that Ezekiel Elliott has put forth on the football field his first 3 seasons. He's got that leverage. The things off the football field kind of makes it a push with the things he's accomplished on the football field, with the things he's done off the football field. So it's kind of a push there. The leverage that Ezekiel Elliott ultimately has is sitting out football games and let the Dallas Cowboys, even with a tough first-place schedule, go 0-2, 0-3, 1-4, 2-5, whatever have you, and let that be a reason why Ezekiel Elliott is still sitting back on the off the field and watching these games. Jerry Jones doesn't like losing. He hates losing even more than being embarrassed. And if that's the case, and Ezekiel Elliott's on the sidelines and the Cowboys are losing football games, Jerry Jones will have to blink first. He doesn't want to blink first. That's why he's playing hardball in negotiations. He doesn't want to blink first. It's a difference.
But what if they're winning?
I've said on this show, look, I don't care if the Dallas Cowboys go 3-0, 5-0, 6-0, 10-1, however many games Ezekiel Elliott misses, and they're still winning football games. It's not because they're better without Ezekiel Elliott. That's not the case. They're better with him on the football field. And if he's not on the football field, the Cowboys ultimately can't get to where they want to go based on the expectations on what this football team has on both sides of the ball. The Cowboys think that they can get to a Super Bowl this year, contingent on Ezekiel Elliott being on the football field, not without him. So I don't care if the Cowboys go 16-0. I don't care if the Cowboys get all the way to the NFC Championship game. If they get to the NFC Championship game and lose and Ezekiel Elliott's not on the football field, guess what the reason is they could have went to a Super Bowl? Is if Ezekiel Elliott was on the football field.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Exactly. So I don't want to hear all of this from Jerry Jones. Get it together, Jerry, and fix it. Oh, boy. This is Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live on the Sports Radio American Network, TuneIn Radio, and the TuneIn app. Thank you to everyone joining us live on the CT Sports Radio Live show. 888-444-0570. I got some random thoughts next. Could Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr. really be fighting soon? We'll talk about that next on Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live. We'll be right back.
This is
is firefighter Raphael Poirier for Firehouse Subs. Introducing new Firehouse Pairs. Pair your favorite small sub with a signature side, like the awesome 5-cheese mac and cheese. And remember, a portion of every purchase at Firehouse Subs goes towards helping first responders. Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs, save more lives. Participating locations only, Firehouse Subs will donate a minimum of $1 million in 2019 to the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation by donating 0.11% of every purchase.
And I would make my poor mom look under my bed every night with a flashlight just to make sure there were no monsters there.
Oh, it was spiders for me. I am still afraid of the little suckers.
Oh, yeah, nothing like a good spider invasion nightmare.
Yeah, I am like so afraid of hackers who are going to steal my data from one of my sites. I mean, it's like crazy, right?
Dude, that's a very real thing.
Yeah, you should totally be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Really? No, come on. You guys are messing with me, right?
No, seriously. Do you have Veracode?
Should I?
Yeah.
But I spent a buttload on security and compliance and, firewalls.
Oh, he has firewalls.
What's going to happen?
Oh, not much unless you count the complete breach of your apps.
What?
Yeah, dude, you are totally vulnerable at the app layer, no matter what kind of security you have in place everywhere else.
Oh, no, I'm a dead man.
Well, not really a dead man, just a man with too many backdoors.
And too many hackers ready to move in.
Yikes, what can I do?
Just get Veracode and involve them from development for future projects.
For sure. I mean, we have it on all our sites.
Yeah, we are totally protected, no matter how deep the threat goes.
Okay, I'll do it. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, and you know what else I'm afraid of? Monkeys on bicycles.
Totally.
Monkeys can ride bicycles?
Veracode, securing the data that powers your world.
The Samson Barbecue Grill is the official grill of backyard fun for you and your
mosquitoes.
Whether you're grilling for one or feeding the whole
brood of mosquitoes.
Our durable and portable grills are perfect for patios, backyards, and
engorged mosquitoes.
Don't let mosquitoes ruin the moment. Orkin, home is where the bugs aren't. Tap now for $50 off your first Orkin service with promo code 50OFF.
This is Shaquille O'Neal. You know Shaq Diesel, Superman, Big Aristotle, Big Cactus, Big Shamrock. If you're not listening to Sports Radio America, play Shaq Fu.
Welcome back into Clutch Talk Sports Radio live on the Sports Radio America Network, presented by Media MPC. Go to www.medianpc.com and get your mobile press conference on with Media MPC by downloading the app on your iOS and Android device. You can visit ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com. That's ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com for everything for the CT Sports Radio Live Show. And follow us all over social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at CT Sports Radio. Thank you to everyone joining us live today on SportsRadioAmerica.com, TuneIn Radio, and the TuneIn app. And also currently watching our show stream live on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/Clutch Talk Sports Radio, and you can subscribe to our channel today, and you can watch our show currently streaming live and get all of our video content on YouTube at youtube.com/Clutch Talk Sports Radio. My producer, Memphis Spencer, along for the ride with me today on a fun and entertaining episode of Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live on the Sports Radio America Network. You can get involved in our chat room on youtube.com/Clutch Talk Sports Radio, or you can give me a call at 888-444-0570. That's 888-444-0570 if you want to get in on the conversation. The phone lines are open. A huge weekend of action across the sporting landscape coming off of, as we talked about a little bit earlier, UFC 241, new UFC heavyweight champion, Nate Diaz, coming back after a 3-year hiatus, beating and piecing up Anthony Pettis in a welterweight showdown. Speaking of combat sports, got some random thoughts coming off of the weekend. We'll start in the world of boxing. Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather's 50-0. Floyd Mayweather's made a bunch of money, okay? A lot of money. Manny Pacquiao just became the WBA welterweight champion of the world after piecing up your man Keith One-Time Thurman back in late July. Apparently, your man Floyd Money Mayweather Jr. is headed to Saudi Arabia, or maybe there now as we speak, to discuss, get this, a potential rematch with Manny Pacquiao in Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia has put itself in position over the last few years to put on these big old mega events. See the WWE, these crown jewel events, the largest Royal Rumble ever, the greatest Royal Rumble ever out in Jeddah, where they had over 50 men in the Royal Rumble. Your man Braun Strowman won that. They just signed up to have the Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz heavyweight championship rematch between the two of them out in Saudi Arabia. Folks are like, for who? For what? Who is traveling all the way out there to watch these two fight, to see these two fight? Because there's a bunch of money on the line. There's a bunch of money on the line that these folks are getting paid for. And now apparently your man Floyd Money Mayweather could be signing up for a rematch with Manny Pacquiao in Saudi Arabia. Now, look, I don't want to see this. Just first of all, the first time they fought, it was 5 years too late. They fought in May of 2015. The fight was a dud. Your man Manny Pacquiao was dealing with a bad rotator cuff. The two didn't look, they were there for the money. I think Manny Pacquiao was probably more interested in being there. Floyd Mayweather, was there for to cash the check. I think it was like a $250 million check he wound up getting. Look, man, Manny Pacquiao is fine. Look, he's come back at 40 years of age, somehow has become the welterweight champion of the world again, a former 8-division champion, is now back as a welterweight champion. And Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather is probably looking at this like, man, look, I beat this chump the first time. I'm fit to go get this easy money. And look, as much as everybody talks about they don't want to see us get back into a boxing ring, guess what everybody's going to do if I sign up for this rematch out in Saudi Arabia for all this money, whatever that money may be? They're going to watch this fight because you know what? Folks are suckers. And folks are going to pay the 70, 80, 90, and as I did 5 years or almost 4 years ago, or over 4 years ago, I paid the $100 to watch that fight. And I still regret it to this day. The worst $100 I spent in a long time paying for that fight between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. But nonetheless, I did it because I got suckered in like a sucker, like everybody else did, to the tune of putting more money in Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s pocket. And guess what? I'll probably do it again if the two actually fight in Saudi Arabia the second time.
Wow.
I'll probably be a sucker again and pay for it. You know why? Because first of all, I'm a sports guy. I have to watch it. I have to watch it because I do this job. So I have to watch it. So there's my excuse right there.
It's true. It's true.
But yeah, man, Manny Pacquiao, look, congratulations to Manny Pacquiao for really reviving his career. Because after he lost that fight to Jeff Horn and that unanimous decision down there, or that controversial decision down there in Australia, I thought he was done. A lot of folks thought he was done. But Manny Pacquiao has fought himself back and put himself in a position where he beat one of the young guns in this stacked and talented welterweight division, and Keith One-Time Thurman. So now Manny Pacquiao is considered a legitimate contender now. And I'm sure Floyd Mayweather saw it and is like, look, man, I can go get this money. I'm going to give Manny Pacquiao this work, and I'm going to go get this money because guess what? There's going to be a bunch of money. In Saudi Arabia, somebody put out all this money? Sure, I'm going to go get this money, and I'm going to go fight Manny Pacquiao. And guess what? Manny Pacquiao's been wanting to get his hands on Floyd Mayweather Jr. ever since he lost back in 2015, and there will be nothing more that Manny Pacquiao would like to do than to fight Floyd Money Mayweather again, even if both of them have no business being in a ring against each other. Last time we saw Floyd Mayweather Jr. professionally in a boxing ring was back in 2017 when, of course, he pieced up your man Conor McGregor. That's all you need to know about how seriously Floyd Mayweather Jr. takes fighting. He does it for the money. It's not like he needs it. Or maybe he does need it because your man is really exorbitant when it comes to his spending habits. But, it is what it is. Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather Jr., Maypac 2. I don't want to see it, but I'll probably see it because if there's this money, reportedly, much money involved as far as it's concerned, the fight, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when it's going to happen and when those two get together. So we'll see if Maypac 2 is actually a thing. Your man Floyd Money Mayweather traveling to Saudi Arabia to do so. The top 25. I got some random thoughts about the top 25 in college football. Before we get to that, Justin Fields, new quarterback, starting quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Your man Jalen Hurts officially named the starter for the Oklahoma Sooners. I think the Oklahoma Sooners are trying to do something that has never been done before. They are trying to have 3 consecutive Heisman Trophy winners at the quarterback position. Your man Baker Mayfield, your man Kyler Murray, and your man Jalen Hurts. And I think Lincoln Riley is going to open up the playbook and let Jalen Hurts go crazy in that Oklahoma offense. And if he's anything like he was when he was the SEC Freshman of the Year, however long ago that was now, it could be a really big year for your man Jalen Hurts as far as Oklahoma is concerned. And that's scary for the Big 12, even with Sam Ehlinger, declaring that the University of Texas is back. And if we look at the AP Top 25, because the AP Top 25 is out now, and guess who's number 1, Memphis? It is the defending, reigning national champion Clemson Tigers, and your man Trevor Lawrence coming in at number 1, Alabama at 2.
For the first time ever, by the way.
Yes,
first time ever,
for the first
Clemson.
time ever, yes. For your man Dabo Swinney, all $93 million of Dabo Swinney. The top 10 includes Clemson, Alabama, Georgia at number 4, Georgia at number 3, Oklahoma at number 4, Ohio State coming in at 5. Your man Ed Orgeron. Look, if there is nothing else more than I'm excited other than the Angry Bender coming back from my man Bill Bender in Sporting News, it is the opportunity to hear Ed Orgeron talk. Not because I understand anything Ed Orgeron says, it's just the fact of hearing Ed Orgeron talk, because that is worth the price of admission every single Saturday, pre and post game, and whenever Ed Orgeron opens up his mouth. So the fact that I get to hear Ed Orgeron talk is a reason I'm excited about college football, period. The LSU Tigers coming in at number 6. The Michigan Wolverines, big year for your man Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines. Look, man, no Urban Meyer at Ohio State. Urban Meyer, if nothing else, put the beat down on Michigan year after year after year at Ohio State. Guess what, Jim? You ain't got to worry about Urban Meyer no more, man. You get to contend with Ryan Day and Justin Fields. Good luck with that. Shea Patterson is returning, though, for Michigan, so that's big for them. Florida at number 8. No, okay, I got to stop. Notre Dame's at number 9. Why do we do this every year? Why do we always think that Notre Dame has to be in somebody's top 10? Notre Dame has been overrated for years. I don't care if they played in a 2012 national championship where they promptly got beat down by Alabama. I don't understand. I understand what Notre Dame used to be as a national brand. Notre Dame isn't that anymore, man. Let's quit trying to make Notre Dame back every single year. I get sick of this every year. Notre Dame's back. We're putting them in the top 10. They're going to be a college football playoff contender every single year. No, man, Notre Dame ain't back, and they're not coming back. You know why? Because Clemson is the new deal. Alabama has been Alabama. Ohio State, Georgia. Man, I'm tired of Notre Dame. I'm tired of the Notre Dame bias, because by the time we get to the end of the year, like we do every year with Notre Dame, guess where Notre Dame's going to be out of? The top 25, like they are every year. I digress. Notre Dame at number 9. And then, of course, for the fans down here in Texas, the Texas Longhorns coming in at number 10. Look, I was really excited when Tom Herman took over the job after Charlie Strong. I thought Charlie Strong was unceremoniously and unfairly fired after not getting a true chance to do his thing in Texas. But when they brought in Tom Herman, I was like, okay, no problem. He's the flavor of the month. He loves Texas. He loves what he's got going on down here. I think they'll be okay. And guess what? It looks like Texas is going to be okay. They've got Sam Ehlinger there. They've got some really talented guys coming back for them, and I think they'll be okay. Speaking of Texas,
I need another 10-win season. I need another 10-win season to say that Texas is back, though.
Well, the thing is, they play in the Big 12. The Big 12 doesn't play a whole lot of defense, so Texas just score a lot of points, just like they do, just like every other Big 12 team does in that conference. They score a lot of points. Can they beat Oklahoma? Because Oklahoma's legit. Jalen Hurts is a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate this year. Can they beat Oklahoma? If they beat Oklahoma, they should have a really good chance to win the Big 12. So we'll see how that goes. But look, man, this past Saturday was the final Saturday without college football, which means every single Saturday from starting on this week through the rest of the year, college football is back. And I know the inevitable is going to happen. Clemson and Alabama are going to meet in the national championship game to play for the 100th millionth time. So what?
But would you be surprised if Alabama doesn't get there this year?
I would be very surprised. I think Tua Tagovailoa is on a mission. I think he feels disrespected. I think he feels like he didn't get the respect he deserved, especially from a lot of folks in the SEC who felt like, he wasn't able to win a national championship. Obviously dealt with the ankle injury, had a lot of stuff going on that a lot of folks felt like he tailed off, especially when he was the leading Heisman Trophy candidate throughout the entire year, except for those last few weeks. And then Kyler Murray kind of, swooped in and won the thing. So I think Tua Tagovailoa's got a lot to prove, and he's going to be a guy that's looking to have a huge year because a lot of folks think he might be a potential number 1 overall pick, along with the guy in Justin Herbert, who's actually, quarterback in the number 11 Oregon Ducks out there in the Pac-12. You want to talk about a conference that needs some good things to happen to it? The Pac-12. The Pac-12 has been awful. It's been worrisome for years. Washington has really been the only kind of light out there in the Pac-12, and they really haven't. And every time they've gotten to the college football playoff, they get dump trucked. So the Pac-12 needs some good stuff to happen to it, and their best.
By the way, the most egregious ranking on that AP Top 25. Where's Nebraska on that Top 25? Are they 24?
I don't know. Look, I'm excited for them because Scott Frost, I think, is really going to really turn the program. And you could tell he wants.
It's
Nebraska.
not a Top 25 team.
Yeah, I think he wants Nebraska to be so good again. I think the way that Nebraska gets down with its football, nobody's trying to go to Nebraska to go play football, man. They're trying to go to Florida. They're trying to go to Ohio State. They're trying to go to Texas. They're trying to go to Georgia. Ain't nobody trying to go to Nebraska to go play football no more. How Tom Osborne was able to manage that and create the national power. Look, the biggest misconception of college football is that Nebraska should stay a national power. Nebraska never had any business being a national power to begin with. That's how good and how great of a coach Tom Osborne was, and the kind of talent he had out there with Tommy Frazier and a lot of those guys that were there. No, Nebraska never had any business, and that's the biggest misconception for Nebraska fans. Nebraska fans think they should be a national power. No, you had a string of 25 years of a great run with a guy in Tom Osborne who could flat out coach. That's the mistake that, not mistake, but that's the thing that happened in Nebraska. And now they think they should be no, you're not a top 25. No, it's not a thing for Nebraska anymore. Nobody wants to go there. And I can understand why. It's in the Midwest. And I'm a Midwest guy.
They were 4-8 last year.
Yeah.
How do you get ranked in the top 25 and you're 4-8? I mean, there's so many things that have to go. You have to kick out Kentucky, who had a 10-game winning season, to put a 4-8 team in. You got to kick out Syracuse. And my goodness, Dino Babers is doing nothing but winning with Syracuse. So, I mean, you got to kick out a whole lot of people at this top 25 to slide Nebraska up there. And I'm like, man, if they go 8-4 this year, Nebraska would actually have done a great job. Going 4-8 to 8-4, great job. Top 25 team, get out of here.
We're going to see, man. No Saturdays without college football for the rest of 2019. Hello, college football. Ben says he likes Syracuse. Okay, Syracuse. All right.
Yeah, Syracuse should be up there.
Yeah. Thank you to our guest who joined us today, Jeff Risdon, managing editor of the Browns Wire, for joining us on our show today. Thank you to all of our phone calls that we had today on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. If you didn't catch anything live with us, make sure you download and subscribe to our free podcast available on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you get your podcasts for free. And search the words Clutch Talk Sports Radio. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Clutch Talk Sports Radio. And follow us all over social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at CT Sports Radio. And visit us on ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com. For my producer, Memphis Spence, my name is Kevin Gray, host of Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live. We will be back on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Sports Radio America Network to get you for preseason action in the NFL for week number 3. This is real Clutch Sports Talk, CT Sports Radio Live. We are out. Have a great week. I'll talk to you on Friday on the Sports Radio America Network.
Pretzel Crust fans, rejoice because it's back.